Hey, have you heard there's an election coming up? That's right. 15 days from today, 2 weeks from tomorrow, it's the big midterms. Time to do a Control-Alt-Delete, a little bit of a reset. Time for us to get back to where we're supposed to be headed in this country. And I'm sure you remember that in the last census, it turned out a whole lot of people left places like California and New York and Illinois, and they ended up in, well, Republican states like Texas. And that means we've got a brand new congressional district in the Lone Star State, and Wesley Hunt wants to represent it. He joins us now. Wesley Hunt, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here. Really appreciate it.
You're the Republican nominee for it's the brand new 38th, right?
That is correct.
And
yes.
Where is this in the state of Texas?
Yeah, well, it's in the greater Houston area.
All right.
Yeah.
So, and because of this, you're not running against an incumbent. It's just, anybody's game here. How you feeling about the race right now, 2 weeks out?
No, we're feeling really good. And look, Texas got two congressional seats. One was put in Austin, it's kind of blue. The other one was put right here in the heart of Houston, which was pretty red. So I always say, we got two new seats here in Texas. So you're welcome, America. One came from California, following one came from New York. So you're absolutely right about people fleeing to our state in Florida. But if you move here, you got to make sure that you keep the values intact, and that means you got to vote Republican. We want you here.
That's right. They're not. You got to make sure those Californians aren't coming as missionaries. They're coming as refugees, right?
We don't have a new policy here. This is why you're moving here.
Well, and listen, and you're obviously running as a red-blooded conservative Republican. I see it on your banner there, conservative to the core. I've been told over the last couple of cycles that Texas is turning bluer, that Beto O'Rourke is the wave of the future in that state. Not so much?
Yeah, not so much. I just saw a poll today that came out that had Abbott up 8 points. And what people are forgetting is that by the next census, the majority population in our state is actually going to be the Hispanic population. And they are voting for the Republican Party in droves because they've realized that the Democrat Party doesn't represent their values or who they are or the values that make us Americans. And so I think there was a miscalculation by a lot of Democrats assuming that all brown people are just going to start voting Democrat because of the past. And we have now realized that that ain't the case, especially here in Texas.
Yeah, well, since you bring up skin color, let's point out the fact that you would be an African-American Republican in the House of Representatives. There's a lot of new black Republicans, especially black men, who are really starting to stand up and say, whoa, everything they told me was wrong. Everything they told me was a lie. How hard is it for you, though, when you're going through your district? Because there are stereotypes, man. And I've got to think that they're like, well, what are you doing? You can't be a Republican.
Yeah. Well, I've been black for a long time. I think. I've had to live my life in this country through the eyes of a black man for a very long time. What I love about this congressional seat is that it's actually a white majority seat. It's actually a district that President Trump would have won by at least 25 points.
Wow.
And we won a 10-person primary and beat out 9 other white guys, and we won it with 56% of the vote without a runoff. So my message to people is this: color and race doesn't matter anymore. We are now beyond that. We want the best, most qualified candidates to actually represent our districts properly. And my district is a testament of that. White majority, Trump 25 seat, a black guy's going to be the congressman there. I find that to be hilarious because the left would tell you that I am not possible, but I absolutely am.
Well, you're going to come to this town in Washington, D.C., and you're going to have people here, reporters, for the Washington Post or for NBC or whatever, they will openly refer to you as an Uncle Tom. That's how disgusting it is up in this town. You ready for that?
Yeah, I don't really like uncle. Uncle's like too close to the root. Just tell him to call me maybe a first cousin once removed Tom or something like that. Like give me some credit. I have been black for a long time, right? I think what's really funny though, you bring up black men, and right now Joe Biden has a 30% disapproval rating amongst African Americans. I've used that to be technical, really.
I hear you.
Black folks. Yeah. They have a 30% disapproval amongst black people, which is extremely high for the Democrat Party. And that's because people are realizing that the policies that we had before were better for everyone.
Yeah.
And black men are looking around, especially in my barbershop. They're like, I got to make my rates higher. I can't even afford to even get to the shop anymore. This is ridiculous. And it happened in the last 2 years under Democrat policies. So once people start realizing that the rising tide raises all boats, and that tide is conservatism, that's why you're seeing this shift in ideology.
Before we forget, let's make sure we get Wesley's website out there. Wesley, where do people go? Because this is the final push, man, and this is when you need the support.
Yeah, wesley4texas.com,
Great.
F-O-R, wesley4texas.com.
You mentioned the economy. You mentioned the fact that we are as much as Governor Abbott and the great economic policies that the state of Texas has done to push against the federal problems. You're feeling it, and especially we got the number on Friday, 2.2 million illegal crossings of the border. That's just the people we know about. It doesn't include the gotaways. Is this going to be a priority for you if you get to the House of Representatives in terms of holding the Biden administration accountable for actually they need to enforce our laws. We don't need a new law, just enforce the laws on the books with regard to our border.
Yeah, Mayorkas needs to be impeached. Full stop. And the other issue is that you're bringing up 2.2 million. That's just this year. It's been about 4.5 million for the past 2 years that we know of. That's ridiculous. And as somebody that's actually served overseas, deployed to Iraq, spent 2 tours of duty in Saudi Arabia as a diplomatic liaison officer, countries don't behave like this. There are no open border policies for anybody else. Like across the world, we are the laughingstock because we're the only ones that are actually allowing this. We have allowed the equivalent of basically almost 4 congressional districts to enter our country illegally. That's insanity. We've had enough fentanyl to pour across our borders to kill every single American, not once, not twice, not thrice, not 3, not 5 times. That's insane, and we continue to do nothing about it. 300 Americans will die tomorrow from a fentanyl overdose. 300 Americans will die the next day from a fentanyl overdose, and yet we do nothing about it. So again, the American public is watching all this, and then watching our border czar, who has made the border czar, who refuses to even go to the border and do her job. It's not hard to figure out what's going on here. It's un-American, and that's why the turnout even today in early voting here in Texas, we are already setting records, and I got a feeling, I don't know, that they're voting for us.
Wesley Hunt, I'm sorry, I hate to correct you on the air like this. I feel terrible, but I was told that Texas passed a bunch of voter suppression laws this year. That was like this side of Jim Crow, right? So how are you getting massive turnout with all that voter suppression I was promised?
So the most racist thing I've heard in the last 2 years? The racist thing I've heard in the last 2 years is the Democrat Party and the left tell me that black people can't get an ID to vote. That's the most insulting thing I think I've ever heard. Now, my dad comes from a family of 6 brothers and sisters. My mom has 8 brothers and sisters. I got a lot of uncles and cousins and second cousins. They all have ID. It's a very low bar for an American to get a form of ID that's government issued. So, look, the idea of us not having, 24-hour voting, I don't know, requiring an ID to vote, I don't know, voting in person, not having mass mail-out ballots, I don't know if that's voter suppression. I guess all that's racist. But I tell you what, I'm going to vote today as a black man. It's going to take me about 7 minutes total to get it done. So look, if I could do it, and like I said, I've been black for a long time, I think we could figure it out.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like Jim Crow to me. Maybe I read the wrong history book, Wesley Hunt. Listen, I want to get you on a couple of issues here, or a couple more issues maybe. You mentioned your military service. We've got good men and women who are about to be discharged and kicked out of the military because they won't get a vaccine, which we know for a fact doesn't prevent anybody from getting infected from COVID-19. Is it time for the Pentagon to step down on this thing? It's outrageous.
It most certainly is, and they're playing political football with our readiness. We want warriors to come fight. That's what we want. We don't want pronouns. We don't want to change the names on buildings. We want to put steel on target, and we want young men and women, brave men and women that want to give their lives for our country. That's literally all we ask for. And all this extra political stuff is why we're seeing our numbers degrade like what we're seeing right now. I don't think at this point we actually believe that COVID is still a real thing. So COVID is not a real thing, and this vaccine is looking like it's more like a Robitussin than anything else at this point. Let's just move on. Let's turn the page, and let's stop impacting our readiness and our ability to fight wars in the future.
All right, Wesley Hunt, couple things. When you win this race 15 days from now, I need you to know, number one, when you get here, you are going to be a star. I assure you, they are going to love you in this town, and we're going to have you on the show on a regular basis so we can keep them accountable. Number two, you're going to hate the barbecue here. So make sure you got to get the frequent flyer miles back to Houston, dude. It's not good.
I'm gonna fly some in from Houston. How about that?
Deal. Wesley Hunt, thanks for joining us, and good luck. More to come on O'Connor Tonight.